Chapter 91 Research is impossible. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's nothing. You guys take your time and play, I have something else to do. Chi Lo waved his hands, then put his hands behind his back and walked slowly through the small door to the grocery store next door. Looking at Chi Li's back, Shui Lang and Ing Feng looked at each other, then nodded together. The blood wolf sat back again and pressed his hands on the base of the crystal ball. Why are you calling me? Chi Lo leaned against the door frame with his hands behind his back. This door is connected to the grocery store, where the magic circle of the combat power improvement training room was originally located, which is on the right side of the counter. I didn't expect, boss, that I've only been away for such a short time, but you actually have so many good things here. Ing Shui said with some excitement. Yeah, do you need anything? Chi Lo answered in a coping manner. I thought to myself, you haven't seen the real good things yet, those elixirs that permanently increase attributes are always sold out. Actually, the main reason is that Ling Xiao needs a batch of weapons and elixirs. Well, it seems that there should be armors now. Ing Shui pointed to Ling Xiao who was wandering in front of the shelves. Okay. Chi Lo spread his hands and returned behind the counter. Boss, you may not know how popular your knight's sword is in the Imperial City. It was used for research by the forging masters as soon as it was discovered. Ing Shui also leaned on the counter. Really? Did the research result in anything? Chi Lo asked with interest. He also wanted to hear whether the world could crack the weapons or armor of the system. After all, these powerful weapons and armors can be said to be unique to Chi Li's shop and have no other products. If it can be studied, something is wrong. It's a pity that nothing has been researched. It's something that comes from the boss's shop. Ing Shui shrugged. This is an expected answer. Thank you for the compliment. Chi Lo nodded slightly and only thanked the second half of the sentence. That's good news, if you can't even come up with ordinary level equipment, let alone those high-quality equipment. Well, Manager Chi, is there something wrong with the prices of these weapons, armors, and elixirs? Ling Xiao claimed to be born in the Imperial City and into the royal family. There are too many days of feasting and living in the Imperial City, but when he arrived here today, Ling Xiao realized that his vision was still a little low. What are the prices for things in the Imperial City? The prices in this small store are so bad. Ling Xiao, the dignified third prince of the Wasteland Empire, just didn't dare to look at the price. No matter how good these equipment are, it is impossible to equip the border guards. Otherwise, even if the national treasury is emptied, they will not be able to afford it. It's worth every penny, no matter how old you are. Chi Lo said this again. Ling Xiao looked at Ing Shui, trying to verify this matter. Although the things boss here are very expensive, they are indeed worth the money. Ing Shui said matter-of-factly. Then I'd like to hear what's special about these things. I don't think a weapon can be sold for 200 spiritual crystals, or even 4,000 spiritual crystals. Ling Xiao frowned. Even though he is known for his good temper, it doesn't mean he likes to be tricked. Then let me introduce it briefly. Chi Lo sighed, knowing that he had to introduce the effects of these things from beginning to end again. Chapter 92 Since ancient times, spearmen have been lucky. You are listening at novelfull.audio. While talking, Chi Lo thought that maybe it was time for him to find a clerk. In the past, when there was only one store, Chi Lo could still manage it. Now that there are two families, Chi Lo still has to run from both ends, so there is still time when there are few guests, but when there are more customers in the future, Chi Lo will be too busy. Listening to Chi Lo introducing the effects of these weapons, armors, and elixirs bit by bit, the suspicion on Ling Xiao's face became even heavier. Because these effects sound really incredible. Manager Chi, I shouldn't have doubted you, but your words and the price you quoted are not enough to make me believe you. I am not afraid to tell you that I really need a batch of equipment of good enough quality. But, I don't know if the equipment you have here is as powerful as your big words. Ling Xiao looked directly into Chi Li's eyes, and his elegant temperament suddenly became sharp. When I open a store, I have always been honest with myself. Chi Lo looked at Ling Xiao calmly. Okay, I admire store manager Chi's courage. Ing Shui, choose what you need. We will go to the cloud forest later and test it out. Ling Xiao nodded, then waved his hand and took down a storm spear. Gun, spearmen. Chi Lu looked at Ling Xiao in surprise. Lancers are different from lancers. The lancer is said to be unparalleled in both offense and defense, but the spearmen are said to be indomitable and live forever. What? Do you have any objections? Ling Xiao glanced at Chi Lu and picked up the spear with a fierce temperament that was completely inconsistent with his previous elegance, as if he was a different person. No objection. Chi Lu shrugged. There is a saying that since ancient times, spearmen have had low luck, and it seems that Ling Xiao's luck is not very good either. Then Ling Xiao took out a piece of wind spirit light armor, a pair of wind-walking boots, and an anti-magic cloak from the shelf, fully equipping himself. This set of equipment looks quite majestic when put together, like a general about to go on an expedition. Every move reveals unparalleled momentum. When Ning Shui saw Ling Xiao's treat, she was not polite and directly took down the explosive flame staff from the shelf, and then chose a fire spirit leather armor as a protective armor. As for the elixirs, Ning Shui was a familiar customer, so she would not be polite when seeing new types of elixirs appearing. 3 magic combinations came directly. These equipment are indeed a bit weird. As soon as Ling Xiao put on these armors, he could feel strange power pouring into his body. He could clearly feel that these energies had greatly improved some of his attributes. Moreover, the energy that pours into the body from some equipment also comes with some information. For example, how should the windwalking skill of the windwalking boots be released, and what effect it might have. Expensive equipment is expensive for a reason. Ning Shui also received the release effect of the fire ring skill in her mind, different from ordinary level equipment. Starting from the excellent level, all equipment will have at least one additional attribute. These attributes can be used to measure the quality of this piece of equipment. Only then did Ling Xiao understand how precious the equipment he was wearing was, simply unheard of. Based on his status as the 3rd prince of the Wasteland Empire, even if he looked through the library of the entire Wasteland Empire, he probably had never heard of such weapons and armor. Being able to directly enchant magic onto equipment is simply impossible with other equipment except for wands. Chapter 93. How much do you want? How much do you have? You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Unless it is a legendary artifact, but the equipment in front of them obviously cannot be artifacts. This just shows how precious these equipments are, and they are definitely far superior to the weapons and armors in the world today. As for those pills, Ling Xiao had never tried them, but just based on the equipment on his body, Ling Xiao could conclude that the effects of those pills were absolutely true. However, this is definitely the first time that pills have appeared in this world, and they were unheard of before. What an incredible store. Ling Xiao sighed in shock, looking at the 2 shelves, wishing he could move all the goods on them, but taking another look at Chi Lu, Gu Jingwu's expression, Ling Xiao could only think about this thought in his mind. Ling Xiao didn't believe in a store that could sell these things openly. His strength was only what he showed on the surface. Rather than taking a huge risk to offend such a magical store, it is better to trade normally and make good friends with it. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao's face changed slightly, replaced by the previous smile, and said, Manager Chi is indeed a hidden master. I am very satisfied with the items in the store. Chi Li's eyebrows moved slightly, and then he said expressionlessly, That's great. Is there anything else you need? There will be a lot of things that will be needed in the future. I wonder how much inventory store manager Chi still has. Ling Xiao asked tentatively. In Ling Xiao's opinion, even if such precious equipment can be put up for sale openly, there shouldn't be a lot of it in stock, because the more high-quality equipment is, the more difficult it is to build and the longer it takes. Judging from the preciousness of these equipment, they are definitely far more than the weapons and armors Ling Xiao has seen before, so it will only be more time-consuming to build them. You can have as much as you want. Chi Lu said lightly. Manager Chi, are you sure? Ling Xiao asked solemnly with his eyes focused. Of course I'm sure. Chi Lu replied seriously, this sentence is true. Anyway, the goods are purchased from the system. At most, it only needs to be moved to the warehouse for a few more rounds, and the more it sells, the more Chila earns. Maybe you can even speed up the upgrade progress. Okay, I'm relieved with what store manager Chi said. Ling Xiao seemed to have settled his worries. and took another set of hot-blooded combinations and a set of life and death combinations from the shelf. Taking 2 sets of elixirs suitable for warriors can be considered as ensuring your own safety. By the way, where is that boy Ing Feng? Ling Xiao suddenly remembered that there seemed to be someone else. Oh, he's next door. Chi Lu added casually. At this time, it was probably about to collapse. It's just that the small door between the 2 shops is equipped with a soundproof magic circle, so the sound from there cannot pass through. This brat, you just came here to choose equipment and enter the cloud forest. What are you doing next door? Ing Shui took 3 steps at a time and ran to the shop next door, leaving Ling Xiao alone to pay. Don't worry, let's pay together after the guy has chosen. You can introduce him by the way. Chi Lu patted Ling Xiao's shoulder unceremoniously, then followed Ing Shui and returned to the battle force. Upgrade the training room. As soon as they came over, they heard the collapsed shouts of Shui Lang and Ing Feng. There were also 1 or 2 muffled sounds in the middle. Ing Feng, what are you doing? Ing Shui held her staff and walked outside Ing Feng's booth. Chapter 94. The rookie actually wants to plot against the store manager. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Ah, it turns out to be my sister. Ing Feng stared blankly at the blood flowers on the ground inside the crystal ball, and replied dully. Boss, what's wrong with him? Ing Shui had no idea what was happening. Chi Lu leaned over, glanced at the crystal ball, and said, it's just a mental explosion and a mental breakdown. As a normal reaction, just pull him away. It will be fine after a while. Oh, that's okay. Ing Shui nodded, grabbed Ing Feng and walked to the grocery store next door. After you have selected your items, come here to check out. There are still a few spiritual crystals that can be returned. Chi Lu glanced at the crystal ball and said slowly. I know. Ing Shui responded. After Chi Lu finished speaking, he was ready to go back to rest behind the counter, but at this moment, a huge hand suddenly came out and pressed Chi Li's shoulder steadily. Then there was a calm, but vaguely audible voice that sounded like he was breaking down. Boss, please wait a moment. What's the matter? Chi Lu turned around calmly and looked at the blood wolf with red eyes. Can anyone really beat this thing? Shui Lang now not only doubts whether this combat power-enhancing arena is real, but also begins to doubt himself, whether he is really a noob. Of course. Chi Lu looked at the blood wolf sincerely. Boss. I do not believe. Chi Lu was speechless for a moment. Boss, why don't you give me a try and show me? I won't believe how powerful you are. Shui Lang pressed Chi Li's shoulder and said seriously. That's not good. Chi Lu declined. There's nothing wrong with it. Boss, if you don't want to play, then you have to admit that you are a noob too. Ing Feng jumped out of nowhere and shouted loudly. It seems that his mental breakdown is not that severe. Chi Lu suddenly realized that it seemed that what he said before about rookie really irritated these 2 guys. Seeing that Ing Feng's equipment was able to generate income for himself, he would reluctantly get one. All right. Chi Lu nodded, then found a seat nearby and sat in. Shui Lang and Ing Feng watched from behind with expressions of nervousness and anticipation, and a little bit of gloating. Ing Feng, why are you in such a hurry? Ing Shui followed and walked over quickly. Sister, come here quickly, the boss wants to show us how to die quickly. Ing Feng said excitedly to Shui, based on his previous experience of being abused, this trash boss will definitely not be able to survive a few moves. What are you talking about? What is the boss going to perform? Ing Shui came over without knowing what was going on and watched together. Ing Fengfeng, what are you doing? Ling Xiao just came from next door and saw several people gathered together. Everyone has a natural tendency to watch the excitement, so Ling Xiao also hurried over. Chi Lu adjusted his posture before placing his hands on the base of the crystal ball. Welcome to the Combat Power Enhancement Arena. Chi Lu listened to the familiar electronic synthesized sound, skillfully summoned a long sword, and then chose the swordsman, because he saw that the opponents of Shui Lang and Ing Fengxian seemed to be swordsmen. How many moves do you think the garbage boss can handle? Ing Feng asked the blood wolf next to him. Based on my experience, there are only 10 moves at most, no more. Xue Lang said with great certainty. Chapter 95. The battle is over, you win. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. What are you talking about? Is the boss going to fight that swordsman? Although Ying Xue didn't know what the rules of the combat power enhancement arena were, it didn't prevent her from understanding the meaning of the picture. Yes, that swordsman is very strong. Ying Feng nodded vigorously. Very strong. No matter how strong he is, can he be as powerful as the great swordsman of the imperial city? Ling Xiao was disapproving in his heart. Who is the great swordsman in the imperial city? He is a master of swordsmanship and one of the 3 most respected members of the royal family. The master-level expert is only half a step away from becoming a hero. How could this false swordsman among the mere products of alchemy be compared with the great swordsman? The battle begins. As soon as the electronic synthesized sound sounded, Qi Li's eyes narrowed and his expression suddenly became focused. The swordsman's speed was as fast as ever. When the sound sounded, the swordsman's figure had disappeared, except for Ying Feng and Xue Lang, who had experienced this speed deeply. Ying Xue and Ling Xiao were all shocked. This terrifying speed is simply terrifying, Ling Xiao asked himself. Even if he faced this kind of speed, he would not be able to keep up. He could only defend passively, and would end up being defeated miserably in the end. As a magician, Ying Xue had no choice. This is also the most terrifying place for swordsmen in the combat power enhancement arena. Unparalleled speed and agility, combined with all-pervasive sword skills, evolved into the most terrifying god of death. But he saw Qi Li's figure flickering, and the long sword in his hand was lifted lightly. The swordsman who was hiding in the void and waiting for an opportunity to act was forced out by this sword. Clang! That the rapier and the long sword intertwined. Knowing that the momentum of this move had been exhausted, the swordsman dodged and retreated backwards. However, the rapier in his hand was like a spiritual snake, stabbing Qi Lu from an incredible angle. It's over, the boss is gone. I knew the boss couldn't survive 10 strokes. This swordsman is really powerful. I wonder if I can learn his moves. The people who were guarding Qi Lu had complicated thoughts in their hearts. However, after being tortured by blood, Xue Lang and Ying Feng were even more looking forward to watching Qi Li's jokes. You are a noob who made you laugh at us. You will see if we don't laugh at you properly later. Qi Lu narrowed his eyes slightly, but the long sword in his hand stabbed towards the swordsman from another direction, approaching the swordsman's throat first and last. The swordsman had no choice but to put away his sword and retreat. Qi Lu took advantage of the situation and stepped forward, his sword shining like a rainbow and his body like electricity. It actually pulled out a long and narrow afterimage on the ring, like a sudden thunder chase. The swordsman must not be allowed to come back to his senses. This was the solution that Qi Lu came up with after thinking about it all night, but before that, the swordsman's combo must be interrupted. This is the key point. The 2 figures collided with each other on the ring, and they were separated every time, never staying longer. The picture inside the crystal ball is like 2 black shadows pulling each other madly, and it is as light and moving as a butterfly walking through a flower, dazzling. Tisk dash! There was another soft sound of the sword cutting through flesh and blood, and both black figures were stunned. Immediately afterwards, the swordsman fell from the air and half knelt on the ring. The blood on his chest merged into a small stream of red blood. The swordsman stood up slowly, gave Qi Lu a fist, and then jumped off the ring. The battle is over, you win. Electronic synthesized sounds appeared in Qi Li's mind. The 3 big words you win also appeared on the ring. Chapter 96. You are just 2 noobs. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. The sparkling special effects almost blinded Xue Lang and Ying Feng. What happened? Is this a win? Boss, you are too strong. How is this possible? Xue Lang and Ying Feng were so shocked that they shouted and almost bowed to Qi Lina, but in the end, I resisted the urge. Ying Xue and Ling Xiao were even dumbfounded and stunned. They stood there for a long time and didn't know what to say. With Ling Xiao's eyesight, he could understand the power of that swordsman just by seeing this duel. The exquisiteness of this swordsman's moves is definitely no less than that of the great swordsman worshipped by the royal family. However, Qi Lu was able to defeat it. doesn't that mean that the store manager's fighting skills are stronger than the great swordsman? Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Ling Xiao shook his head and threw this ridiculous idea out of his mind. Ying Shui also swallowed her saliva silently. With Qi Li's terrifying martial arts skills, she might not be able to survive even 3 moves before she would be defeated, or even lose her life. Fortunately, this guy is just a shopkeeper. I didn't expect to be defeated. Qi Lu looked calm on the surface, with a normal look on his face, but in his heart he was crazy with joy. He struggled all day and night yesterday to accomplish something, but he didn't expect to succeed now. 2 noobs. Qi Lu glanced at Xuelong and Ying Feng, then stood up expressionlessly, put his hands behind his back, and returned to the counter with a great look. It seemed like just now, it was just a trivial matter. Ying Feng, let's go. Go to the cloud forest to test the equipment before coming back. Ying Shui pulled Ying Feng, who was preparing to fight again, and dragged him out of the shop. The remaining Ling Xiao walked to the counter, hesitated for a while, and then said, Manager Qi, I wonder if you can sell those crystal balls. What? Qi Lu picked his ears, thinking he heard wrongly. Why is this guy here to buy weapons, armor, and elixirs? Why is he even thinking about a crystal ball? Not to mention that there are only 20 crystal balls in the combat power-enhancing arena, and the supply is completely insufficient. The most important thing is that the system does not allow it to be sold. Ling Xiao had no choice but to repeat what he said. Not selling. Qi Lu shook his head and returned resolutely. In fact, Qi Lu heard it clearly for the first time, but he just didn't know how to answer. Manager Qi, you can set the price as you like. This thing plays a very important role for me. Ling Xiao emphasized the issue of price. It's not about the price. This is not for sale. If you need to use it, you are welcome to come to the store. Qi Li's tone gradually returned to calmness. Since Manager Qi said so, I won't bother you. Ling Xiao was not an unreasonable person. Now that Qi Lu had already said whether it was for sale or not, Ling Xiao gave up the idea. The worst thing is to bring people here and use this place as a training point. Shui Lang looked at Qi Lu deeply, then gritted his teeth and sat back in the booth. Since the store manager has proven that these opponents can be defeated, then if the store manager can do it, why can't I? The Blood Wolf. From now on, people from the Blood Wolf team must come here in batches for special training. That the Blood Wolf thought while being tortured. Being abused here alone is a bit lonely. As soon as the words were said, before the beast tide came, the number of monsters in the cloud forest increased sharply. Chapter 97 The Story of Chi Yongqiu and the City Guard Team. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Mercenary groups and mercenary teams, large and small, are all organizing people to enter the cloud forest to kill monsters and obtain magic cores. Even monsters that are less than brave level can get their fur, sharp teeth and other things. Come for sale. The city guards of Cloud Mist City also divided a group of people into the Cloud Mist Forest to hunt monsters. This is not only to reduce the pressure of the beast tide, but also to train the city guards. In the final analysis, the mercenary union is still unreliable, at least it cannot be regarded as the main force. The city guards are the backbone of the army to resist the beast tide. Dividing the city guards into small teams and entering the cloud forest one by one. Training can not only enhance the cooperation between the teams, but also allow them to warm up first so that they will not panic in front of the beast tide. On the outskirts of the cloud forest, a small group of city guards gathered around the fire and ate barbecue. Even with their armor on, they simply sat on the ground. The captain of this small group of city guards is a young man named He Xiao. I heard that this name can bring him good luck. This time, He Xiao's team was sent into the cloud forest to hunt monsters. Due to an accident, He Xiao's team was besieged by several brave-level monsters. The 10-man team was almost completely destroyed. At the critical moment, a new student who was said to be coming to the cloud forest for training ran out of nowhere and blocked the attack of 2 of the brave-level monsters. This allowed He Xiao's team to survive the crisis. Brother Qi, it's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, we might not be able to get out of this place. He Xiao sat by the fire and thanked him while eating meat. The average soldier in the city guard is less than level 20. And even soldiers who have reached level May 20th not have trial crystals to open the trial space. Generally speaking, a city guard soldier with the seal of the brave can become a centurion at least. You're welcome. I was preparing to return to Yinwu City when I accidentally noticed something moving here. Chi Yongqiu put the Ice Crystal Knight sword beside him. If it weren't for this Ice Knight sword, he wouldn't be able to hold back the two brave level monsters. Chi Yongqiu gained a lot in the Cloud Forest this time, at least level up to level 20. When you return to Brilliant Academy, you can start saving Academy points to redeem trial crystals. Then he also hunted several brave level magic cores. Now I can even earn my living expenses back. If Brother Chi is also planning to return to Yinwu City, why not come with us? It's time for us to return to Yinwu City. He Xiao glanced at the remaining 5 people. Although there were inevitably casualties when hunting monsters, He Xiao felt a little sad that 5 of his comrades were suddenly missing. If Chi Yongqiu could be allowed to take care of them all the way, there should be no more danger outside the Cloud Forest. It's good to have someone to take care of you on the way, so let's go together. Chi Yongqiu nodded. However, Brother Chi, I really didn't expect that you don't even have the seal of the brave, but you can compete with the brave level monsters. You will definitely be limitless in the future. He Xiao wiped the oil on his mouth and complimented. Chi Yongqiu smiled and said, then Captain, he is ridiculous. I also rely on this knight sword to have such strength. As he spoke, Chi Yongqiu patted the ice crystal knight sword beside him. Brother Chi, you don't have to be so humble. One person's strength may only rely on a weapon. He Xiao thought Chi Yongqiu was being modest with him, and immediately laughed. Chapter 98 Host, you can't recruit people. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. I guessed that you wouldn't believe it. After I return to Yinwu City, I will take you to a place and you will know. Chi Yongqiu didn't care. He was just anxious to go back and fight Yingfeng again. He lost last time because of weapons. This time, Chi Yongqiu will not be careless again. Okay, I'll come find Brother Chi after I go back and recover. He Xiao nodded. After enduring 4 hours of bloody torture, the Blood Wolf silently left the combat power improvement training room with a tortured heart. Chi Lo lay on the recliner at the counter and yawned. For lunch, I went out to buy meat buns while Xuelan was in a daze after being tortured. System, I want to recruit a clerk, and I don't have any tasks. Chi Lo bit the bun in his mouth, holding paper and pen in both hands, writing and drawing at the same time, and asked in his mind, System, Host, please open the store properly and don't make any whims. Chi Lo yawned and said lazily, that means there is no mission. It seems that we won't be able to harvest the wool this time. System, excuse me, the host is thinking that you need to recruit a clerk. Chi Lo continued to reply lazily, System, why are your responses so slow this time? Are you generating some tasks? System, sorry, host, because your level is too low, you are temporarily unable to hire shop assistants. Chi Li's body stiffened and the movement of his hand stopped. The bun in his mouth also rolled out from the corner of his mouth and fell to the ground. 3 seconds have passed before my eyes. System, I need an explanation, why can't I hire a clerk? Chi Lo stood up angrily, not even eating the buns, he slammed the white paper in his hand onto the counter. The advertisement recruiting store clerks only had a title, System. The system has detected the current popularity and customer flow of the host store. One person can take care of it without hiring additional clerks. The host is also asked to work hard to increase the store's popularity and customer flow. Why haven't you mentioned this before? Chi Lo looked around the store, only then did he accept the system's rhetoric. System, you haven't asked me before. Okay, now the system is the master. Chi Lo has to rely on the system for everything he does. If he doesn't hire clerks, he won't hire them. Chi Lo rolled his eyes. If his plan failed, he tried another plan. System, since you don't let me hire clerks, you can always mark the attributes of those weapons and armors. Chi Lo said in his mind, as long as you don't have to introduce yourself, you can accept it without a store clerk. System, the system has detected that the current popularity and customer flow of the host store do not meet the annotation standards. Please keep up the good work. Chi Lo suddenly felt that life was boring, and silently lay back on the recliner, its popularity and passenger flow again. It seems that the system has learned well. No, this is probably just a way to stimulate him to work hard and expand his customer base, Chi Lu thought through gritted teeth. Hey, store manager Chi Lu, are you looking for a clerk? Not long after he lay down, a clear female voice appeared in the store. Chi Lu stood up and took a look, and saw 7 girls from Lan Ye's team with different looks and ages walking in. Lan Ye, who was walking at the front, happened to catch a glimpse of the recruitment advertisement with only one title written on the counter. We're not hiring at the moment. Chi Lu calmly put away the white paper on the counter, and then said expressionlessly, I need something. Chapter 99 New weapons are coming to the store. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Store manager, why did your store change location and it's so close? Yongqiu followed closely behind. It's not a change of place, it's an expansion. Chi Lu explained. Brother, do you want to eat meat? This time it's the meat of the flaming horned pig. It's delicious. As soon as Lan Zier entered the store, she lay down on the counter and took out a large piece of meat that was roasted red. All of a sudden, the shiny meat comes out. Thank you. Chi Lu would never refuse such unscrupulous kindness. After putting away the pieces of meat, Chi Lu added, if you need equipment, you can go through the aisle in the store. The weapons you need should be available now. Chi Lu still remembered the last time they complained about the insufficient variety of weapons. Do you also have a shield? My current shield is broken, and it was the flame-horned pig that broke it. Lan Zier asked while lying on the counter, shaking her 2 short legs. Of course. Chi Lu said with a rare smile. What about the elixir? Xiaoya asked immediately, this time when hunting monsters deep in the cloud forest. Although the equipment was very important, the elixirs played an even greater role. They even let them hunt down 2 professional class monsters. There are no new elixirs available at the moment. Chi Lu replied. He also realized that the egg pool he had now for purchasing goods was definitely a streamlined version of the system, otherwise, there wouldn't be only so many types. Oh. Xiaoya responded, looking quite depressed, and followed a few people whose weapons had not been updated to the grocery store next door. Lan Yi and Nailan Qinqi were left chatting with Chi Lu in front of the counter. Chi Lu, what are those crystal balls used for? Nailan Qinqi knocked on the counter, and then saw the bulletin board. 2 spiritual crystals per hour, this is too expensive. I believe that manager Chi Lu will not sell anything that does not meet the price tag. I just don't know what this store sells. Lan Yi asked with a smile after looking at the bulletin board. It's a big deal for someone who wants to challenge the combat power improvement arena. When Chi Lu heard Lan Yi and Nailan Qinqi ask about this, he was silent for a moment and then slowly said, simply put, it is a trial space used to improve combat skills and combat awareness. Trial space. Lan Yi was shocked. He thought to himself that this Chi Lu store manager is indeed someone who dares to sell extremely high-quality weapons and armor, as well as elixirs that can be called miracle medicine. The newly opened store actually allows people to use the trial space at will. The price of these 2 spiritual crystals per hour is almost like giving them away for free, but why is this price set? Aren't all trial spaces one-time use? As soon as Chi Lu saw the change in Lan Ye's face, he knew that she had misunderstood, so he had to continue to explain, I just want you to understand it easier. The crystal ball is an arena similar to the trial space. In that case, let me give it a try. Lan Yi took out 2 spiritual crystals from his pocket. I want to play too, Chi Lu, I want to play too. Nailan Qinqi also handed over 2 spiritual crystals. Just find a seat and just put your hands on the base of the crystal ball. Chi Lu put away the spirit crystal and said casually. Lan Yi nodded, found a middle seat, sat in, and placed her hands on the base of the crystal ball. Electronic synthesized sounds immediately appeared in her mind. Chapter 100 The Style of the Lancer. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Welcome to the Combat Power Enhancement Arena. Then there is the routine introduction to the rules for novices. It was very detailed and dispelled Lan Ye's guesses about the trial space. This should be a powerful alchemical product. Lan Yi thought in his heart, alchemy in this world is still very developed, and those rare but unique alchemical products have always been piled up with resources. It seems that the background of this Chilo store manager is really not something that I and others can guess. Nailan Chinchi found a booth next to the counter and sat in. Nailan Chinchi immediately sank into the soft leather sofa, which was so comfortable that he didn't want to move any more. It shouldn't matter if you take a rest first. Let Sister Xiaoya play first. Nailan Chinchi thought wittily. The rules of the combat power improvement arena are actually very simple. As smart as a orchid leaf, he quickly understood them, then he put his perspective into the crystal ball. Choose your opponent, let's just use the spearmen. Lan Yi thought for a moment before choosing an opponent with similar weapons to his own, then Lan Yi stretched out his hand, and a spear appeared in his hand. Unfortunately, there is no way to transform a mount into this arena yet, so there is no way to fully utilize the strength of a reserve lancer. Speaking of which, the appearance of the 4 people under the ring is actually similar. They are all young men, and they have ordinary faces that can never be found again once they are thrown into a crowd. It's just that pair of eyes. After the battle begins, they will flash with a terrifying light. The battle begins. Boom! The spearman kicked the ground, and the man rushed up like a cannonball. Different from the deceitfulness of the swordsman, the style of the spearman in the arena of combat power improvement is to move forward without hesitation. Chi Lu had fought with the spearman several times and felt headaches all the time. This indomitable fighting style is very suppressive, and is even more difficult to deal with than the cunningness of a swordsman. Even Chi Lu felt a headache from his opponent, let alone Lan Yi. The spearman's tactics were extremely domineering. Compared to the swordsman's silent control of the enemy, the spearman pulled Lan Yi off the ring more directly. Not even 10 seconds after the battle started, Lan Yi started staring at the crystal ball in a daze. I lost now. Lan Yi couldn't believe her eyes at all. You know, Lan Yi can be the captain of Lan Ye's team not only because she is the oldest in comparison, but more importantly, Lan Ye's martial arts skills are the strongest among the 7 of them. Even in the entire Yunwu city, only Hu Shou can be stronger than Lan Yi in terms of martial arts. No, I have to do it again. I must have been careless just now. Lan Yi began to deceive himself and entered the ring again. Choose the Lancer. The battle begins. Emotionless electronic synth sounds filled the arena. The Lancer, who came on stage again, was still flashing like a beast, rampaging around the ring. In the combat power enhancement arena, there are currently only 4 opponents that can be challenged, and the fighting styles of these 4 opponents are basically fixed. The spearmen moved forward inexorably, and their suppression was still strong. At least Lan Yi, who was mentally prepared, still couldn't withstand the spearman's attack. The spear is like a cold star, and the spear is like a dragon. Wave after wave of attacks, like endless waves, are continuous. Once suppressed by the spearman's attack, the outcome of this game can basically be determined.